Good morning, beautiful people. Marie Alessi here. I'm coming to you from the super sunny Sydney this morning, and I want to talk to you about a topic that is very, very close to my heart, and that is about embracing emotions. Let me put that on silent. I have heard this term of you need to learn to control your emotions for a really long time in my life. And with all the amount of work that I have been doing, not just on myself, but also in the last couple of years, helping people heal through grief, it has become so apparent to me that we not only need to change our language around what we do, what we say in the presence of somebody grieving, but in particular, our perspective on how we look at things, how we look at emotions, how we look at grief in particular. So, I wanted to share this and unpack this with you this morning because the term controlling your emotions to me gives me that feeling of putting a lid on something and then it becomes this pressure cooker. And then when you don't embrace your emotions or work with your emotions or allow them out or heal them, then the pressure builds up. And eventually there will be one trigger that opens that valve and it will burst out like that steam that we all know from the pressure cooker. And that is really not necessary. That is very uncomfortable. That is a very uncomfortable way to deal with emotions. So, whenever somebody says to you, or when you hear the term controlling emotions, please in your head translate that for yourself to embracing your emotions. Now, I hear you. When we think about the really deep emotions like anger, sadness, grief, how on earth can I embrace them, Marie? So, here are a couple of things that you can do to do this easily, to actually make this easy for yourself. When you have an emotion that really triggers you, let's go with grief, let's go with anger, they're really triggering emotions. The first thing that I want you to imagine, like really picture in your mind, is what if each emotion is like a wounded child? If a child comes to you and is really angry, you don't sit them in a corner or send them to the room to deal with their emotions on their own. You sit with them. You hold space with them. You validate their emotion. That is the number one thing. Every emotion wants to be validated, wants to be seen. And this is when we can start working with the emotion. So let's go with anger. I'm going to pick that because I understand the emotion that I work with the most is grief, but right now I want to take a very generic one, and also because the emotion of anger does come up in grief a lot. I have worked with a lot of people who have felt anger through grief. I understand anger more than ever before. I've been dealing with anger for a really big part of my life. Luckily, never in grief. It never came up for me in grief, yet I have dealt with anger quite a bit in my life. And all of that came from unresolved childhood stuff, from unseen and controlled and put away and not looked at, not validated. So for me, anger is a cover up emotion. The first thing I want you to understand is anger is an easy form to express emotions that you find really hard to address. So you might burst out in something not knowing what the actual emotion is, but when you actually sit with it, when you are on the other side of this intense emotion and you can look at it from the outside perspective being a key word in this entire talk here this morning, then you'll notice, or you can allow yourself to look underneath. What was actually causing the anger? What is the emotion underneath? It might be grief, it might be sadness, it might be frustration, it might be I am not seen in my pain, in my hurt. The not being seen is a very easy trigger for anger. So I want you to actually sit with it like you would sit with a little child that comes to you stomping and angry and not having words yet to express this emotion, what's actually going on. You sit with that child. And the first thing you say is, I see you. I see that you're angry. I see that you're frustrated. Do you want to talk about it? How can I help you best? And I want you to do that with your emotions as well. Because the thing is, once we start allowing this work, this inner work to take place, it will become easier and easier. And I was one of those people who was pushing uncomfortable emotions away, who didn't want to deal with anger, who didn't want to look at what's going on. Yet once I started doing that, once I started to allow myself to lift that lid before the pressure could build up in that pot and really look into it, what is it that is causing this emotion for me right now? Sometimes it's even jealousy. Sometimes it's, why on earth have I not gotten to this point yet, and why, and we can be so hard on ourselves. That is a really big thing in dealing with emotions. We can be so hard on ourselves. So when you think about the emotions like sitting with your child, think of it as inner child work. Think of the emotion as your inner child not having found ways yet to express it in other ways. Then let's go still with the example of anger, okay? If you are angry, when an emotion comes out in anger, then sit with your inner child. Look into that. When did that first start? When did I feel that emotion before? What is the emotion actually telling me? Where is their anger coming from? Is it jealousy? Is it being hard on myself that I haven't gotten to where I thought I would be at that stage yet? Whether that be in finances, whether that be in healing your grief, whether that be in any idea that you had about your life. We need to allow ourselves to embrace that emotion and sit with it. Like you would your inner child. When you embrace your inner child, when you hold her, rock her, sit with her, that's when we start to validate our emotion. That's when we allow our emotion to be seen, to be heard, to be felt. And that's where we allow the emotion to bring the messages that they are actually supposed to bring to us. Every emotion has a message. Every emotion has a message about what is going on within us, deep within us. And often we can't get to that through our mind because we overthink things. Sometimes we just need to feel things and allow it in. But when we allow ourselves to feel things, the biggest part is to be kind to yourself, to really treat this emotion like you would your inner child. Gentle, with a gentle manner and with an open heart. And when we do that, that's when we allow ourselves to listen to the actual message that each emotion brings to us. So get the outside perspective, look at it from an outside perspective and approach it with, what is the message here? What am I allowed to learn from this emotion? What if I hug this emotion like I would if it was my child, my inner child? This is when we can really diffuse the anger around it, diffuse the heaviness of grief, diffuse the beating ourselves up about something because it comes from a space of comparison rather than seeing ourselves for who we truly are. I've actually just written a beautiful newsletter about that topic, that I already am who I want to become. And I'm going to share the link underneath in the comments because I want you to really read this newsletter. I bring the comparison of the statue David by Michelangelo and how he already saw David before he even created him. He just started chipping away until he saw what he already had in his mind's eye. You know, he already knew who was in there. We already are who we want to be. All we need to do is start chipping away all the stuff that stays in the way between other people seeing it too, between ourselves seeing it too when we look ourselves in the mirror. So in a nutshell, I want you to allow yourself to be kind to yourself, to embrace the emotions that are coming your way, because they are nothing else but messengers with beautiful messages for you in what direction you need to walk, in what direction you need to send your healing, in what direction you need to have your attention, because every emotion that comes up is an emotion that wants to be seen and wants to be healed. And for all of those who are sitting here going like, I have no idea what you're talking about or how to even get started, please do send me a message, because this is something that I have truly mastered in my life, to look at the emotions when they come and embrace them. I truly do, wholeheartedly, whatever emotion comes my way. I'm sending you so much love today. Please be kind to yourself, and I'll be posting the link to my beautiful LinkedIn love letter that I wrote on Friday, so you can read that too. Please reach out to me. Sending you love. This is Marie. Bye for now.